If you call me again, that's because you want to build something here. I'm not your hookup girl. I'm not going to come over at 10 o'clock at night and fuck you. But if you genuinely want to build something, then give me a call and let's hang out again.
Whoa, dating apps in the world of dating feels to me extremely overwhelming. How do we change things within ourselves so that our dating life becomes better and healthier?
When I was trying to change the patterns, I really had to look at what was in my control and what were my choices. I cannot keep dating somebody where my needs aren't met. He was the most unavailable, disorganized, super hot and cold. 1 minute he'll love you, 1 minute not. And he would gaslight and he would discredit me and he was constantly talking down to me. And even still, when I see his photos, I'm like, God, that guy's hot. What am I so obsessive with? Like, what are 3 things that make him so cool? I'm still waiting for my answer. And I grieved and I cried and it sucked and I missed him for months. I stopped and I said, okay, what are my choices? I could text him and I could go crazy, or I could choose myself and for the first time actually say that I am worthy and deserving of more.
You don't have to be that version that you know of yourself. You can transform and heal into a person that ends up with everything.
Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Real, Raw and Authentic. Today I'm in LA. I'm with relationship and dating coach Sabrina Zohar. Nice to have you here. I've been waiting for a long time to come and see you. I have so many questions. This episode is for everyone who is struggling in a relationship, who is currently out there in dating life, but also maybe struggles with anxiety around dating or falls into these patterns of falling in love with the wrong kind of people. Sabrina, I'm happy to have you. You are a dating expert, relationship coach. I'll bring in the first thing. I'll bring in something about myself. I'm currently dating.
Well, first of all, hi. I'm so freaking excited to be here and welcome to LA. I'm really excited to hear about your experiences because I think it really showcases how you can have a clinical background of understanding things, but then when you're in it, you're like, oh, fuck, what do I do? How do I handle this? So what are you experiencing?
I'm dating for, let's say, the last 9 months. So I threw myself back into the dating world. I was like, okay, let's give it a try. I've done my healing, done the work. I feel emotionally available. But dating apps in the world of dating feels to me extremely overwhelming. And I'm struggling to navigate it because I feel like the patterns I see in people yet, and that's the struggle that we sometimes face, we still feel drawn and attracted to them.
I would think that you were lying to me if you told me you weren't. I was just having a conversation with my girlfriend about a guy that I dated 3 or 4 years ago. And even still, when I see his photos, I'm like, God, that guy's hot. Like, it's natural. He was the most unavailable, disorganized, super hot and cold. 1 minute he'll love you, 1 minute not. And yeah, during it, I felt something was off, but I still was engaged in it because it felt really familiar. But I am curious. Okay, so you're dating, you're out there. What patterns do you see coming up consistently that you're like, oh shit, this looks familiar?
A lot of times I see the avoidant and the winning over improving the love. This is something that I work with also in depth with people who struggle with trauma and have had these narcissistic parents that earning love, having to prove your worth, feeling always unworthy, and finding that sort of pattern of I want to patch up that wound. I still find it attractive to chase, let's say, the unavailable guy. And in my mind, and I have a lot of awareness by now, and I've done a lot of healing, but you have that pattern a lot of times of, oh, I could add some value to you. I could fix you. I could, if you would just let me into your life, we could create that perfect relationship and living in the potential future already.
God, as you're saying it, I'm like, yep, been there. I think at least for me when I was going through that, because I dated 5 years before I met my partner, like between relationships. So I get it. Like I was with somebody for 2 years prior to that. So you get back in there and you're like, God damn it, I didn't think I was going to have to be back here. But one thing that at least I noticed while I was in that journey, or at least I see a lot of the times, is like, I think therapy is great and I love my sessions and I love having those moments and these aha moments and connecting the dots. But really where do I see the work come in is when I'm face to face with the, oh shit, you're my decision. Do I go down the road that I always know, or do I go down a new road and try dating something different? And for me, that actually changed everything because I was really self-aware, kind of like to you. I saw the patterns, I saw the people. And for me, at least, what it took me about, I would say, 3.5 years to actually change the way I was showing up with people. Like it took me going from relationship, like person to person, going, okay, that took 3 months. Now let's get it down to 2. Okay, now we're down to 1. Now we're down to a week, where it was getting quicker and quicker. But I think I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Identifying the unavailable wasn't as difficult. It's kind of clear once you really, you know what to look for, and you're like, oh, okay, you dodge conversation or you deflect with humor. We're not really having any depth here. You're not being consistent. But what was really tough for me was when I met my now partner, was being able to receive something that wasn't a game, that was a lot more consistent and reciprocal. And he has his avoidance because he's a human, but he's never shown, never, that's an over-exaggeration. I would say he very rarely shows that in the relationship, unless he just gets triggered and shuts down and is trying to come back online. But have you, I know you're in this journey, have you met anybody that has exemplified behavior that you would want? And have you just been turned off by it, or are you just not meeting these people at all?
Not meeting them at all.
Okay, interesting. How are you meeting people? The apps?
Online, the app. How did you go into the journey? When did you were starting also obviously dating, but what was your previous pattern?
My previous pattern was as clear as day. Narcissistic father, people-pleasing mother. So I learned how to not have boundaries. I learned that you don't say no, you do what they want. And so when I was in New York, I thought, okay, if I can connect with my body, if I can sleep with them and get them to like me, they're never going to leave. Okay, well, I got people that were really into that, and they were super stoked and having fun with me, but I wasn't getting depth. And it was the same thing over and over again until I ended up being with my father, like being with a man that on paper, it's not like they look, maybe they look alike, but it's not like they're exact replicas, but it was a reminiscent of how I felt, how he made me feel, how I felt when I was in his presence, how I felt really dismissed, and he would gaslight and he would discredit me and he was constantly talking down to me. And it felt really familiar. And so when I got back into dating, I knew I didn't want that, but I didn't understand what it looked like to actually have something healthy. And I didn't know how to regulate my emotions. Like I remember dating this one guy. I think we hooked up on the first date, which I don't care. Like people could do that with my now partner. But after, like I would have such panic attacks if I didn't hear from him in the day. I would scream in my house. I would like snap at my mom. I was an asshole, frankly speaking. And I remember telling him one day, like, trying to explain to him over text, like what my needs were. And I remember him being like, this feels really heavy. And at the time I was like, you just don't get it. And now in hindsight, I'm like, no, that 100% is accurate. And so it was really understanding, like, well, then once I left New York and came to LA and realized like, wow, you're dating differently here. Like people are very different. I started to get really used to rejection. And so that really helped me to understand like, okay, you don't need to personalize everything. Like there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to like you because you speak fast, you curse a lot, and you're from New York, and you're in a place that doesn't really understand that as easily. And every time I dated somebody, and like where I really started to change was when I was face to face with the love bombers. Like this guy, it's the one I was talking about that my friend and I were talking about. One of the most beautiful humans you've ever seen. Like just objectively, you're like, you're real? Like this is not fake. And we met out at a workout class. It was like a very organic connection. Yeah. We spent the weekend together and it was, I'm going to play this right. I'm not going to sleep with him. And of course we hooked up on the last day. And it was 3 days of like me just literally having to pinch myself being like, this isn't real. Like this person is, I can't stop laughing. My cheeks hurt because we're having such an incredible connection. But he didn't live there. And so he went back and he said, I want to see you. And then that's when I started to see we'd go 3 days without communicating. Anytime I'd try to be like, hey, am I coming to visit you? Relax, we're going to get this. Or like always dismissing me and kind of just like, okay. And then I remember went to visit him and it was terrible. Like it was one of the worst trips I'd ever had. And the old me would have tried my hardest to hold on to it. And I remember leaving, like, because he was disorganized. So 1 minute it's I met my equal, and then the next day it's I said I met an equal, not my equal. And you're like, dude, this is maddening. And I finally he called me when I got back, and he was like, I miss you. I really want to see you again. And I finally just said, like, dude, I'm sorry, but that sounds like bullshit. I was like, I was just there. 1 minute you're all over me, 1 minute you're not. And sure enough, in true fashion, he was like, you know what? Actually, you're right. I actually don't know that I'm really that into this. And I appreciate you saying it. I think you're right. We should part ways. And I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm getting off this merry-go-round. I was like, just moments ago, you were telling me you miss me and you want me to come back. And now all of a sudden I'm right. We shouldn't be doing this. And I think in that moment, I very easily could have people pleased. But I had to stop myself and say, he might be gorgeous and he might be all of those amazing things, but my needs aren't met. And at the end of the day, I cannot keep dating somebody where my needs aren't met. And I grieved and I cried and it sucked and I missed him for months. And now he has a girlfriend that's 12 years younger than him because he can't date people his own age because he didn't have the emotional bandwidth. And no matter how hard I would have tried to change that, we never would have been together now. And so I think when I was trying to change the patterns, I really had to look at what was in my control and what were my choices.
Wow. How did you find that strength? But also the awareness. I mean, awareness is one step, but actually doing that step of, I would call it maybe reparenting in some ways. But how do you actually travel from the awareness of like, okay, this is not good for me, to, okay, I'm actually literally pulling the plug here. That's it.
I think it was about 3 years of not doing it. 3 years of doing ketamine treatments and going into my therapy and understanding my inner child. And I think I'm painfully self-aware, like to the point where my friends were like, all right, what are you going to do with this? And I knew I had to implement something, but I also have in my room, nothing changes if nothing changes, because I knew like, I'm just going to keep going on the same merry-go-round because they're all the same version of there's different cookie cutters of the same thing. My mama always says the chalk outlines on the floor insert a different body. She was like, it's just the same thing over and over. And I think literally one day I stopped and I said, okay, what are my choices? I just stopped. I asked myself that and I said, I could text him and I could go crazy, or I could choose myself and for the first time actually say that I am worthy and deserving of more. And I had a really good friend at the time that reminded me of that said like, babe, you deserve more than this bullshit that this guy is giving you. And yeah, I could have gone back and I tried. I would be lying. 2 weeks later, I texted him being like, should we talk? And he was like, no, I think we made the right choice. Okay. But I also knew I've done this before. And I would have just continued to keep beating it down. Instead, I said, you know what, let me try something different. And I met my partner a year later. It took me a year plus of doing this, of every time I saw it, I'd get better and better and better until I started to realize me saying no and setting a boundary isn't changing the outcome.
Wow. How does it feel for you? Let's say sometimes comparing is not a good thing, but maybe in this case it is, of like how you showed up also differently compared to that guy that you dated that was maybe, let's say, unhealthy for you or not the right kind of guy, and you showing up in your current relationship. How was that? How was it different?
Totally different. When I met the other guy, I was terrified to say anything of depth, like not having conversations of depth. But when he left, I remember just being like, so did you want to like pursue this past this? Not being holding of like, hey, what are we doing here? Like, I need clarity. I want boundaries. Like, I'm sorry, this doesn't work for me. I didn't hold space. Mm-hmm. And I tried to play the cool girl. In that situation specifically, I was proud of the fact that I kept myself measured, but I was trying to play it cool of like, don't text him. Fine, let him go do his own thing. Even though inside I'm dying, I'm hurt. This is being, and I kept trying to have conversations with him, and he would I could tell it wasn't working. And instead of, I stayed a little longer, right? I stayed 3 days on that trip. Should have come home after day 1. But I didn't shame myself for that. I came home and was like, cool, we're going to learn. Then when I met my now partner, we hooked up on the first date. And I remember just leaving being like, I looked him right in the eyes before we walked out. And I said, listen, that was so much fun. And if this is all it was, like I had a really great time. And I wish you the best. And thank you so much for having me and taking me to dinner and doing all this. I said, but if I'm going to tell you very clearly, if you call me again, that's because you want to build something here. I'm not your hookup girl and I'm not your I'm not going to come over at 10 o'clock at night and fuck you. But if you genuinely want to build something, then give me a call and let's hang out again.
Whoa.
And he just looked at me and he was like, awesome. And then the next day he texted me and he was like, I'm still smiling from last night. I would love to see you again. And I've talked to him since and I'm like, what did you like about that? And he was like, you weren't scared to lose me. And he was like, that was really sexy to me that you were so okay standing in your space and your power that I knew you were different than any of the women I'd met because no one ever stood up to me like that.
Wow.
So I was like, yeah. Because I think in the past I was so scared of losing them, but then I realized that I'd already lost myself and that was way too high of a price.
But this is what we a lot of times face, that feeling of anxiety, that feeling of, oh my God, I'm going to lose the person. They abandoned me. We sometimes stay, and that's what you explained with that 3-day weekend, but we stay sometimes too long. That can sometimes be years.
Exactly.
And sometimes we get stuck in trauma bonds, these toxic relationships. How do we, from your point of view, stop this? How do we change things within ourselves so that our dating life becomes better and healthier?
I think it's a valid question. I think at the end of the day, anytime we see a pattern, we have to stop and go, what's the common denominator? And it's not that it's our fault, and it's not that anyone's to blame. Like, we have to get rid of it sounds terrible, like the victim verbiage here. No one is saying anybody is a bad person or a problem. But we are saying is what is in your control and what is yours to own. It's not yours to own to say everything's my fault. Okay, cool, back it up, right? You're taking ownership for both of you. But what mine is, like, for instance, with that guy, I can take ownership and say, I really, really wanted to believe that he could become a different version of him when I was done with him. I really wanted to say that this guy, and he was also just so goddamn attractive and fit, and he was everything my little thought that I was going to get when I was an adult. That includes how shitty he treated me. That includes how he was flippant. And that's when I realized she's driving the car right now and I need to be the one that's making the decisions. Because part of being in a healthy and secure relationship is having your needs actually met, having a partner that attunes to your needs, that you could communicate and talk like adults and have conflict and repair. And so I think when we're going through what at least helped for me was learning how to take a pause, not reacting. That was the game changer from going from super anxious to the point where like I text a guy 173 times because he tried to end it with me after like 5 dates. I just couldn't handle somebody ending it or rejecting me to the point where then when a guy would text, I would literally sit on my hands for a minute and be like, you can count down to a minute. And I realized like, oh, I did a minute. I could do 2. I could do 3. And I just very slowly integrated things. So my nervous system started to feel like I actually had her back. And I wasn't just outsourcing my happiness to other people or my validation. And so I'd say if we really want to start breaking these patterns, we need to take full ownership of what's ours to own. So how am I showing up? Am I talking shit to myself, but then putting them on a pedestal? Am I overlooking red flags because I really want this person to work? Am I being delusional? Like I was delusional with plenty of guys because if they chose me, what did it mean about me? More often than not, has nothing to do with them.
And how do I know the difference? Let's say if I meet my soulmate, or if it's a trauma bond, because sometimes that can feel so the same, too good to be true kind of moments of like, what's the recipe for figuring it out?
Oh, it's a loaded question. I would say for some people, obviously, if we're talking like true trauma bond, that could take you a minute to figure out, right? Some people are very good at first. That's why I always suggest to go slow. Because when you go slow, and I'm not saying like make an excuse for bad behavior of, oh, just take 17 months to kiss. It's like, no, we're not talking about that. What I mean is we're not expedited the stages of a relationship quicker than they need to be. And so going slow could look like you live your life. You have your friends, you have your family, you have this robust, incredible life because they are in addition to, not instead of. And so if I'm living my life and I'm getting to know you, then I'm going to give you it's like a contract negotiation. I'm going to give you just a little, see how that works. I'll give you more, I'll give you more, I'll give you more. Too many people come in at 100. We start at 100 and then we spend every day together and we're enmeshed. And what happens is your nervous system then becomes dependent on them. We become, oh, I have to have them now. I'm not safe if I don't. I need the dopamine. I need the reward. I need all of that. So instead, what we want to do is slow it down and then start to ask, how do I feel with this person? Do I feel seen, heard, and understood? Awesome. Maybe this is somebody I should give more of my time to. Did I set a boundary with them? How did they react? Did I say no to them? How did they respond? How were they when we were out in public? Did I see them in different environments? I need data. And so I look at it as, can you collect data while you're dating so that you can then make a determination? I don't know that I even personally believe that there's one person for me. I think that there's 9 billion people. I think there's so many amazing people that could be for me. But I need to look for the person that satisfies my needs right now that I could see a future growing. And that is inclusive of how do we fight, how do we repair, and how do they respect when I say no to them.
Wow, I like that one. That's really good. Because when you are coming out of, and I came out of, let's say, in a very abusive relationship a very long time ago, but it left me puzzled in so many ways. I craved love, but I was deeply afraid and scared of it because it's been so abusive on many levels that you're starting to doubt your own, and that's the thing, instinct, your own needs, and that's what trauma related or people who've been through trauma can relate to.
100%.
It's they don't know how to navigate the dating world anymore, and it becomes very much of how I felt, toxic environment of, I want that great guy, that great looking guy, or that successful guy, or that guy that loves bombs you. It felt so familiar, like you said. But how do I travel from, I'm going more for, let's say, anxious and avoidant. That's this sort of, that goes hand in hand sometimes. It's not always separate, right? It's
which one being, so there's, I mean, if we're looking kind of, we have the anxious, avoidant, that disorganized, right? The amalgamation. I mean, I think the thing is too, one thing that a lot of people need to come to terms with is that this relationship that we all want is probably not going to look how you think it's going to look. Very rarely are healthy and secure relationships like the movies, because you can have a beautiful relationship with somebody, but it doesn't mean that you're on cloud 9 every single day. And that's typically what happens when we are in that dynamic of whether I have anxiety and they have avoidance, and we're going through the dance, and sometimes they come and then they go, and then I want, and then they that dance is, if you have two people that are trying to heal, it could be really beautiful. Like my partner, he said it to me honestly. He's like, I've never opened up to anybody on the planet like this. And I've never felt safer with somebody than being like, he is vulnerable, he is open. And this is the person that used to scare children when he'd walk down the street because he was such an asshole sometimes. He was like Shrek, just looking like this big ogre who's the biggest heart. But because I didn't listen to the nonsense of like, well, he's avoiding, run. No, what it was I had to give somebody a chance that was a little different than what I was used to, because what I was used to wasn't working for me. So if I'm going to work through my trauma, first I need to understand, what does it feel like in my body for those emotions and feelings? So if I'm used to somebody that gaslights me or belittles me or talks down to me, how does that feel and where do I feel those sensations? Okay, I need to take note of that. What is the narrative that I start to create? Do I have facts to back that up? Like, how can I start to work with me and what I'm coming up with in my body, my nervous system, my brain, all of those different variables, so that I can learn to trust myself? Because it doesn't mean that I'm always going to know, right? I might meet somebody and think they're lovely and then be proven wrong. But I know that no matter what, I'll be okay because I have my back and I'm going to figure it out.
Wow, that's really strong. That's very powerful. I like that one. That goes to my next question, that because I get this a lot from people. They ask me this, and my topic is trauma, but you're the relationship expert. And that's actually literally a question that I need to help also the people that I support. Because information out there is like, no, go heal yourself in isolation, do your healing work, which can, depending on what you've been through, take a very long time. And my personal take is healing is an ongoing journey that never ends. But how does it apply then to the dating? Would you say, no, you can still go out and date? Or should you first do a certain chunk of healing and then dive into the dating? I'm not sure if there's a best approach, but is there something that you would say is a good way of approaching the dating world?
Totally. I think it's a really fair question to ask as somebody who went through a lot of trauma and dated for a long time when I probably shouldn't have. I think for me, there's no hard, fast rule. It's not like, oh, you have to do 7 months and then you can go back out there. No. But what I would say is, have you processed through what happened? Are we at least able and aware to say, like, am I getting constantly triggered every time? Like, is it that I can't even get to the first date because I'm so anxious? Okay, well, maybe I should learn to be okay alone. And what I mean by that is not that like I have to be in solitude, but is it okay? Am I judging myself at night for that I don't have a date that night? Am I okay with the fact that I'm living my life for me and these people are an addition to? Because I think when we date, like when I met Ryan, for instance, I wasn't healed. What the fuck, healed? What? In what world? I still had my stuff. But what I had was enough tools to where I could stop myself and say, let me try something different here. Because my dog had just passed away. He was my best friend. I was 10 years with my soulmate. And he never got to meet him, right? It was 2 ships. They met a month later. I wouldn't say that when I met him, I'm like, oh, I'm this healed, higher version. You heard in relationships, you're going to heal in relationships. But I had enough tools to where when I came in, I was able to use I statements when I was communicating. I understood what active listening was. I had processed my past so that when he asked me questions, I was able to answer them with I statements and not call my ex an asshole or crazy or, you know what I mean, deflect and gaslight and do all of those things. I was able to show up to where at the very least I could control myself. That's all I have. I can only control. If I can regulate my emotions, to me, I think you're in the place where you should go out and date. Where at times it could take a break is when you're out there. Like if you're out there right now, for you personally, and you're like, man, I just keep getting triggered. I'm really struggling to even get to the first date. Okay, cool. Maybe I should work on what's coming up for me. But what I'd say is challenge yourself and do things that are uncomfortable. You hate dating apps? Good. Why? Why do you personally hate dating apps? I know you said you weren't into them.
Yeah, but why do I hate them? Oh, I find it very superficial. I'm craving emotional depth, and that's already the challenging part. How do people define emotional depth? But I love emotional intimacy, which is not necessarily the physical part. It's really about holding a conversation that's beyond surface level, where you feel heard, seen, and that's quite. I find trying to find a hidden gem in like a pool of. I don't know.
I would say, my partner always says, think about the dumbest person that you know, and just remember that 49% of the population is stupider, right? So like the average person does not have the IQ, does not have the intellectual, all of that stuff. And I'm probably on that same spectrum, right? Like I'm not a PhD student and I'm not all that. But like you exist, they exist. So that's the first reframe. But the second thing here is, okay, so then what can we control about that situation? Well, we can control how uncomfortable it makes you. Okay, so we can say, good, sit in something that makes you uncomfortable. You don't like it? Okay, challenge yourself. Then that way, at least it stops impacting you as much as it did. But the other thing I'd say is, okay, what's in my control? How am I showcasing myself? What's my profile? Am I showing depth? Because that was my thing. I had, you should go out with me if, and it was this like, the longest I could make it on there was like, you are vulnerable, you are growth-minded, and you are eager to like, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'm not looking for shallow, not looking for like, looking for true depth. I can't remember exactly what I said. It was pretty damn good. The amount of dudes that would comment and be like, man, this is so refreshing. Can I please take you out? Doesn't mean that they were for me, but I had to show up differently if I wanted to stand out in the crowd, as that I'm looking for different. Because then when Ryan saw it, first thing he said, he was like, that was so hot. I saw the depth that you were bringing to the table, and I knew you were not going to be like the other girls I'd met.
Oh, so it starts already
100%.
on how I put things onto the dating.
100%.
Right.
Send me your profile offline when we're done with this.
Awesome.
We will, because Ryan and I do profile audits. I'll do them on the show. We do them, we charge people to send it to us. But we do full profile audits because that's the first thing we see. Usually we see on the profiles that there's a lot of like, here's what I'm looking for. And it's like, do you think that other people are as self-aware to be able to identify that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like people are terrible at self-diagnosis. So when you're like, I'm looking, not you, proverbial you, I'm looking for someone growth-minded and aware and intelligent. And you're like, sure, most people looking at that are like, I'm that. And it's like, they don't even know how to fucking tie their shoe. So we have to stop looking at like this laundry list of what I'm looking for. But what I want to see is like, sure, you could say something that you're looking for like I had, but I also want to get to know you because part of the prompts are there to elicit a conversation. And so for me, one of my prompts was I had the deep run. That was a little bit more like, okay, you know that I'm not some like girl. Then I had, you should go, or I said, for a sign of a great first date is if we actually have one, effort equals interest, and go easy on me. I'm new from New York. I wanted to make it clear that I was not a girl from LA, that I was new in the city. And so you were like, okay, I know what I'm getting. And then the last one was, I think it was like another one, like you should go out with me if you agree that we should have dinner to get to dessert and you always have snacks in your pocket. And it's like, so a lot of people, they'd be like, why'd you put that? It's like, oh, no, I have a cupcake tattoo. I literally eat dinner to get to dessert. And I had so many great first dates of guys being like, I have this dessert place, let's go. Because it was something about me that was a little bit lighter. And then you had the heaviness of the like, I'm growth minded. And then you had the whimsical of like, oh, okay, she's new in town. I gave them enough. And then I had great photos that were like full body, one with a friend, showing I'm not hiding anything. Here's another fun fact before I shut my mouth. Is psychologically and scientifically, if you have a photo from front on that is above 10 degrees or below, so like at an angle or below, it shows a sign of insecurity.
Oh.
So if your crown and your chin are in line by 10 degrees with your photo, that shows confidence.
Oh, that's fascinating. Didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. So how many times you've seen selfies of like that, and it's like they're hiding something, or that it's because they want an angle. But when somebody is front on and center, right and direct, they're pretty goddamn confident.
Interesting. I see also a lot of times like these half faces.
Mm-hmm.
Is that also a sign of insecurity then?
Yeah, because they're not showing themselves. Yeah. First thing I saw on Ryan's profile was a photo he had it front and center of him like on a mountain that I think his friend had taken, and it was just his face. And I was like, okay, I could see. I was like, he's a confident guy.
Oh, these are small, fine details to watch out and look out for.
100%. Because these are the details that we don't, who taught us that? How are we supposed to know? And I've been on it with my fair share of people like that. Or, you know, how many times you see like, and I know people are going to say it's shallow. It's like, but you do have a right to want to get, like, if I'm looking at somebody and they show up 20 years older, I'm not going to be stoked. If you're going to have photos and you are 150 pounds heavier, please show your accuracy because you want someone to love you for who you are, not who you're pretending to be. If you have blonde hair, have blonde hair. If you have like, show who you are so that when they get to the date, they're not like, what? And then I hear that all the time. Girls will get really upset and say, but he told me that like I'm not what he thought I was. And I see their photos, I'm like, but I get it. I wouldn't have recognized you if you had walked in. That's kind of catfishing.
True.
Same with guys. Don't lie about your height.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. Huh?
Oh,
why is that happening?
I mean, you and I are tall. Yeah. I like a tall guy. I do. I'll still date somebody that's my height, but I'm allowed to have a preference.
Yeah. Oh.
I know. There was a lot of, I don't know if you saw Tinder. Tinder released their new height filter.
No, I didn't see that, no.
It's been causing an uproar, which is confusing to me because Bumble and Hinge have always had that. Like every other app has always had a height filter. So I didn't understand. But I think people were saying, oh, it shows how shallow it is. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I do understand that. But I also think that like if I was walking in the street and somebody didn't approach me because I'm too tall, like they're also allowed to have that opinion of me. And I do think that I should be able to say if I want something specific. That's on me if I'm pigeonholing myself.
Oh, yeah. Fair
it's
enough.
On me.
Yeah, true.
So that's something I have to live with, and that's okay. But if I'm okay with that,
fair enough.
Fair enough.
Do you say like dating apps is the only way to date, or do you say like, well, there's also other ways? Is there still this? Let's say I meet someone randomly in a cafe, and he's gonna come up and talk to me. Is that still real?
Yes, and it's real-ish. I would say. I think there's, I saw this. It really annoyed me. I saw this ad for Bumble recently, and it was a girl at a party. It was maybe it was a few months ago, and she was at a party with her friends, kind of talking like this, and she looks over and sees the DJ. And thinks he's cute. And instead of going, she goes on her phone on Bumble, finds him, of course, right? Because that's how convenient it is. Swipes right, puts her phone down, and continues talking to her friend. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Whatever happened to going up to people and just being like, hey, people are terrified of rejection, especially in person. I can hide behind my phone, but if you tell it to my face, because we've evolved into this, right? Think about the last 15 years of dating apps. It was new at one point. It's not new anymore. But no, you don't have to just do the dating apps. What I will say is they're a necessary evil. I met my partner on an app, even though I was the most community-driven girl you could ever meet. And I tried so hard to meet people in person and it didn't seem to work. But I would say go on Eventbrite, like wherever you live, obviously, if you're in the States. But I think you guys even have Eventbrite over there. But go and find out things in your community. So like, I don't drink alcohol. I'm probably not going to go out to bars.
No, me too.
Right? So I did pottery, I did cooking classes, I did hike club. I did everything in my community. I joined every fitness studio because I'm big on working out. I love community and fitness. So I was doing meditations, gong, like anything I could, because it might not have been that I met a guy there, but maybe I meet a girl whose brother is single or her best friend is, and she invites me to a party and that's how I meet them. So I was very open to how I'm going to meet my person I don't need to know, but I'm just going to keep putting myself out there.
Oh, brilliant. That's a quite strong thing to do. It's not so easy when you're struggling with social anxiety, though.
100%. And I hate talking to people.
Oh, yeah?
I do. I have severe social anxiety because I hate small talk. So I'm probably similar to you where I'm like, I want depth. I go like, if you ask me how I'm doing, I'm going to give you a real answer. I'm not going to just be like, good, thanks you. So I find that those social events freaked me out quite often. But I, again, forced myself to do things that were uncomfortable. Didn't mean that I had to meet somebody that night. But the fact that I left the house was a huge win for me.
Oh, that's really good that you do that. You're exposing, basically what you're saying is expose yourself to something that is unknown to you or a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. Because then you don't have to go back. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it again. Like I hated pottery. Oh, I hated it. I wanted it so bad to be my thing. It's not my thing. I don't have the patience for it. I don't have the hands for it. It's not my thing. But I tried. I tried it and it didn't work and that's okay. It didn't work. But then I went to a workout class and I loved the studio. I never met a guy from that. But I had such a great time and met so many new friends and had experiences through it. So I would say what I love about doing things that make you uncomfortable is we need to expand our window of tolerance.
Oh, I like that one. Expanding the window of tolerance.
We have to.
So true.
Otherwise, then all of us would just be staying home all day if we were scared. I don't get in the car hoping to have an accident. But if I don't get in the car to go do something, I'm probably not going to give myself those opportunities.
But that's the thing to start with, maybe that's the step of doing your own healing by yourself, of like exposing yourself into new situations, going into the unknown, unfamiliar, trying new things, and then along the way still simultaneously start dating, however.
Date yourself, and that way you can treat yourself how you want someone else to treat you.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right? Start dating yourself.
I loved dating myself. I hated it too. Like, of course, because I'm a human, I was lonely and I would cry at night and I'd be like, oh, you see your friends, you're like, I just want a boyfriend. But I had done that actually when I was 25. I just wanted a boyfriend. Didn't matter. I was unaware at the time. And I met this guy and he was such a lovely guy to this day. Like I never will speak negatively about this guy. He was so lovely, so handsome, so great, just so not for me at all. We were oil and water, like just totally polar opposites. He was super preppy, loved to boat and play baseball. And then it's like, I'm the New Yorker that wears black and curses every 5 seconds and loves cut. Like we were just two different worlds. And I was never, when we broke up, I remember crying for like a minute, but the next day we were both kind of like, we ended up just being friends and we were like, it was 9 months. It's fine. We could move on from this. But after that, it shifted because I wasn't just looking for a partner. I was looking for the right person. And so I had to become that right person. Otherwise, I was never going to be able to receive it because if I'm showing up and I'm anxious and why aren't you calling me? Why aren't you texting me? It's like, okay, so I'm disconnected from myself, but yet I want this person to be secure and healthy with me.
True. A lot of times we attach also these old wounds onto someone else. Oh, I don't want to be abandoned. I jump from one relationship into the next and just someone, anybody, let's say out here, hello, I am ready to date, just take me please. And whoever is sort of, let's say, attractive or triggering maybe even those wounds, then you jump right back into it.
Oh yeah, because I'm a big fan of taking space when you're after a breakup, like take a minute, depending on the context, obviously. Like if it was a 1-2 month thing, it's like you don't have to take that much space, like get back in there. But we're talking like a full-on relationship. Like if right now my partner and I broke up, I wouldn't regret a moment that we had our relationship. And we're very honest with each other. Like we'll have conversations where we're like, hey, are we still are we still choosing each other? Because if we're at an impasse, that's okay. Like let's talk about it. And then by the end of it, it's either we're going to continue or not. I don't find any of this to have been a waste or a mistake. I have learned from experience, but I'm going to make damn sure that this is the right connection for me. And I'm going to use my voice because if I don't, I'm just back into my childhood again.
That's so true.
Right?
Do you feel like it plays out a lot these days with people? The childhood wounds, the inner child, the fear of abandonment and many other things. That's why we're struggling so much in dating?
100%. I would say like, I would argue to say like 100% of the time I see it, it's childhood core wounds. Because more often than not, it's not actually about them. Like when let's even talk about like something like texting. When we start panicking, and I was her, right? I remember sitting on my balcony, I had like a tiny little balcony in Venice, and having a literal panic attack because it was 2:00 in the afternoon. The guy hadn't texted me yet, losing my shit. And I was on there with my sister, and then all of a sudden she literally heard the tone of me because I got a text from him. And she stopped and she goes, "That guy texted you, didn't he?" And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "You just suddenly shifted. My entire mood was dictated on, is he going to leave?" Because I was so in my shit. I was running away from actually facing it of, oh my God, I'm abandoning myself. This person, he wasn't for me. And we knew that. And I knew that from date one, but I didn't want to acknowledge it because he was cute and he was tattooed and he was there. Great. I don't have to keep doing this. And so more often than not, it's a dopamine addiction loop, right? Our brain is just wanting that reinforcement. And then what happens? Our cortisol is spiking. We're stressed. All of our other neurotransmitters are being depleted. And then it's also the amygdala, right? If I'm dysregulated, I shut down, I go right back into that fear center. Then to me, what do I know? How can I keep you? Please don't leave me. But I don't really give a shit about these people. I'm more scared of losing myself. But a harsh reality I had to face when I was in the healing journey was my friend Britt Frank, she actually helped me with that. She's a neuropsychotherapist. And I remember once I said, I'm scared of losing everything. And she goes, "Oh, okay, can I tell you a little something?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And she was like, "Hey, little sap, just so you know, you already lost it." I was like, "What?" And she was like, "You already lost all of the things you're scared of. You already lost your father. You didn't have the dad you wanted. You already lost your childhood. You lost it all. I need you to grieve that."
Ooh, that's hard.
It changed it for me because I'd stopped and I was like, oh my God, I did, didn't I? I'm holding on to something that doesn't exist anymore. And that's why and then when I lost my dog, I was like, who cares? You took the one thing that mattered to me, the one thing on this planet that was my everything. I don't give a shit anymore. You reestablish your priorities.
Wow. That's quite a shift.
Very. But you went through a big shift. You're leaving a relationship. You almost lost yourself, but you came back home to yourself and you found yourself.
Yep.
Now, I literally keep a photo of little me on my dresser every day because I'm like, I have to remember why I'm doing this and for who I'm doing this for.
I'm doing the same,
I love it. How's it been?
Wonderful. I love, and I sometimes even have these moments where I see my little self walking next to me, jumping. It's like this power of, I'm very visual.
Yeah. Same.
And I see that, and I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. Just enjoy. Have fun. Great. Good for you. And that's the thing. It's when you start and go on your healing journey and start that relationship within yourself that for years, we can avoid this for decades.
Oh.
Build a genuine, compassionate, kind relationship within ourselves. A lot of times it's extremely harsh or avoidant, neglected, harmful. And when you start shifting that, it's a total different thing. I think that's when you start noticing your needs.
Yeah.
And for me, the hardest thing to admit was, and it's even terrible for me to say that right now, but I was always aiming a little bit low.
Yeah.
Is that normal?
I would say it's not uncommon because it's safer.
Yeah.
Right, it's safer because you're like, well, I'm not going up there, I'm going down there. But what's interesting too is I think when it comes to even like the reparenting conversation, something that like really changed the game for me that like has been a catalyst for me personally was like I just started asking myself like, how old do I feel? And then that really changed the way I dated because when I would say like somebody, for instance, like my partner once said no to me. It wasn't a big deal. I just said like, hey, I was like, babe, do you want to do this? And he was like, nope. And he just walked off and I was just sitting there and all of a sudden I'm like sweating. My heart is racing and I was like, okay, I know this doesn't make any sense. Like he's allowed to say no to me. And I stopped and I was like, how old am I right now? I was like, I feel like I'm 6 years old. I was like, okay, well, why do you feel like you're 6? I'm like, because I feel like I'm talking to dad. I was like, okay, so that's it. That's it. You are triggered because you're seeing him as dad and now you're starting to close up and you're freaking out. And I had to remind her, I was like, hey, that's not dad. I'm here. I got you. And I was like, what's really bothering you? You didn't feel like a priority? Okay, I'm going to speak up for us. And I turned to him and I said, hey, can I share something with you? I was like, this is not yours to own. I got really triggered when you said no. And I was like, I'm not asking you to change who you are. But what I am saying is that moving forward, could you just say no? And then maybe just let me know like why? I was like, because it just felt really harsh. And he stopped and he was like, you're so right. He was like, that was really dickish of me. I didn't mean to just flippantly say no. He was like, absolutely. And to this day, we've never had an issue because if I say, babe, do you want to do this? He'll be like, no, but I will. How about we do something like that tomorrow? And I'm like, okay, thank you.
But that's amazing. You expressed actually a need. You first checked in with yourself and expressed therefore a need something that you would need from your partner, because we all carry childhood wounds in different ways, even if we like bash always the narcissistic guy or the avoidant, but there's the empath, the over empathetic, people pleaser, fawn response, and so on, but there's also the narcissistic, but we all carry kind of same, not the same wounds always, but similar wounds, just they play out in different ways.
Oh, yeah. They show up in relationships, personal, professional, your work. They show up in how many times, which for anybody listening, if they want to argue about this, how many times have we text a friend and you have anxiety and all of a sudden you're like, why didn't they text me back? You don't even, it's so subtle. You're like, did I say something? And I'll look back and I'm like, are they mad at me? Even my friend called me today. He's like, do you think I'm mad at you? And I answered him. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, why would I think that? And he's like, I haven't heard from you. And I was like, dude, I had to go to the dentist yesterday and I was out for the day. He was like, oh, I had no idea. I'm like, yeah, stop making assumptions.
Is it also a limerence assumption, or is it more obsessive?
Oh, I mean, limerence is I can't sleep, I can't eat, I'm creating castles in the sky. Like I was in a limerence state when I dated, loose term. There was a guy that I liked in Venice when I lived there, and he was this really like famous YouTube guy, whatever. And he was cute, but like by no means was he anything to call him about. Like he's just a nice guy, but even that, it was a stretch for me to say nice. And I was literally like, I was thinking him 24/7 day. I was every time I'd walk in the neighborhoods, I was hoping he'd be out walking the dog and see me. I was counting down the seconds. I literally couldn't do anything besides focus on when is he going to text me next, because I was so enamored by if he chooses me, what does that mean about me? If I'm new in town, nobody respects me, nobody likes me here. I feel like I'm very left out. If that guy likes me, oh my God, I'm validated. Then all of you are going to like me and you're all going to want to be my friend and you're all going to think that differently. And then what happened was I completely self-abandoned, hoping he was going to choose me, until eventually I stood up for myself. And I was like, hey, by the way, stop calling me at either 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. and start making a fucking plan. Guess who'd stopped doing that?
Oh no.
Because I broke the limerence. I was done when I finally realized, when I was like, what am I so obsessive with? I'm like, what do I like about this guy? And oh, he's so cool. Okay, Sabrina, name me 3 things. I had to talk to myself. I was like, what are 3 things that make him so cool? I'm still waiting for my answer.
Oh.
Because there was nothing. There was nothing. I had created this version of him based on photos and videos. And in person, he was nice enough, but damaged individual. Truly, truly trauma. And that's fine. But he did nothing about it.
But that's what we do, right? We create a picture, a future, the future that doesn't even exist yet. So is your advice to stay as present as possible?
Oh, I have sour candies all around my house. I had ice cube, like anything to bring me back to the present moment. Because I think the reality is a lot of us, and present company included, was looking for a big like, oh, just do this and it'll stop. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I know what the just do this is? Just thought interrupt. Doing things ourselves is like taking a pause, challenging your thoughts, getting curious about what's coming up for you. You know, like you're crying hysterically. Like there was a TikTok I stitched and the girl's crying hysterically and she's like, I hate this about myself. I fall in love with everybody I meet after one date. I haven't seen this guy in a month and he hasn't called me, and she's crying hysterically. And I was like, but you said it. You said it in the first sentence. I hate this about myself. That's why you're crying. You're not crying about him. You're crying about you hate this about yourself because you're battling yourself, but then he didn't choose you, so you're making yourself even worse. It's because of what they bring out in you. It has nothing to do with them. You had one date with this person. Who are they?
What's a good amount of dating? Where you would call it, it's building into a relationship? Is there also something when, I don't know, the carrot is held sort of, we might end up building a relationship, but let's go really slow. I mean, is there also too slow?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a difference between going slow because we're not like, it took me 5 months to say I love you to my partner. Okay, it took me a minute, right?
Okay.
It took us 3 months to get into a relationship, right? We weren't rushing. We didn't want to go, 3 months, what's that? What, 15, 20 dates? Like, that's not a lot. But then there's a difference between that and like, I had somebody write in yesterday saying, I've been in a situationship for 2 years and they're telling me they want to go slow. And I was like, no, now you're just wasting your time. There's no progress. There's no progress. Am I getting to know them on a deeper level? Are they opening up to me? Am I meeting friends and family? Right? If we're just always, like I had a client the other day and she said, well, every time we get into an argument, he says he's coming over, we hang out, he leaves in the morning. And I'm like, that's all he's doing. He knows how to buy time because he's breadcrumbing you. When the minute she sends him the long text of like, I'm not happy and my needs aren't being met. And then he says, I'm coming over. He convinces her everything's fine. He stays the night, he leaves. He's not taking her on dates. They haven't met friends and family. They're not.
Okay, so the things and the signs to look out for is, okay, we're taking it slow, but there's also a good consistent pace to it. So it's not we're delaying it like a chewing gum into this hate this situationship thing.
No.
That's gonna be endless, but it's like, okay, eventually you get to meet someone on an emotional, deeper level. They open up about their vulnerabilities.
Totally. Vulnerabilities.
What else would you name?
I would say I want to see that they're growth-minded. I want to see that they're vulnerable. I want to see that they're transparent. I want to understand that they're honest. I want to see reliability. Do their words and actions align? That's going to take me time to figure out. And the other thing to kind of also keep in mind is like, what makes a situationship? Truly, how do you actually get into a situationship? A lack of communication. There's no clearly defined boundaries around what you're doing. So there's one person that's benefiting from that. That's like, perfect. We don't have to talk about it. I get to do what I want. And then there's another person that's like, I'm too scared. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to rock the boat. No, be the cool girl. Don't be too much. Or guy, right? They. So how do we combat that? Going slow doesn't mean that you still don't have conversations. Doesn't mean that you still don't have hard talks. You still do. We went slow. We saw each other twice a week. Every week we had consistent plans. We had dates. Like when we left, he already had plans for the next. Like we always knew when we were going to see each other. We didn't talk every day, but he still would call or he'd FaceTime maybe once every other day. And then he would alternate. Maybe he'd send a text of like, hey, hope you're having a great day. Going to put my phone down. Can't wait to see you. I always knew that there was, I wasn't scared that this person was going to walk away. And if he did, what's the big deal?
Okay.
When you really think about it, what's the big deal? Sure. Oh, okay. I really liked them. Okay. So what do you like about this person that couldn't come and talk to you?
Fair point.
Right? What do you like so much about this person that couldn't handle confrontation? What do you like so much? So then really is, I liked the idea of them. I liked who they presented themselves to be, but now I'm seeing who they really are.
So that's a good thing, actually.
100%. Rejection's redirection.
Oh, I like that one. That's a very important one. I always ask everyone who comes onto my show, if you could travel back in time, can be any time,
okay,
what would you tell your past self?
God, that's a hard one. There's so many different versions of me that come to mind as I think that. But I think I would tell, there's a photo of me that I posted the other day that just resonated. And I was like doing this lion, I was wearing a lion dress and I had like my like face paint and I was doing that. And I think I would tell her something that I wish she had heard then, which is just, you're not too much. He just doesn't know what to do with you and that's okay. But in the future, you're going to fucking love this. And this is going to be your biggest blessing. So please don't forget who you are. Because I always thought that there's something wrong with me fundamentally and that I'm too much. I talk too fast. I speak, I curse, I do all those things. And that's actually what people like about me now. They hate it too, but that's okay. But I wish she had known that who she is actually what makes her so goddamn special and that it's Dad that has the issue and not her. But I think if she had heard that, I think maybe we would have had a different trajectory.
Wow, Sabrina, that's really powerful. And for everyone who was listening, this is such a deep message. This actually means what you just described, healing is possible. No matter where you are, no matter what stage in your life you're in, no matter how stuck you feel. You can heal and you don't have to be that version that you know of yourself. You can transform and heal into a person that ends up with everything.
I get to take care of her. It's my job now. I have created the most amazing house and she has a security system around the property that no one's ever going to get into. And that's my job, is to keep her safe. And so she doesn't have to come and tell me that there's anybody around. I get to do that for her. And there are days where I don't want to see her. And then there are days where I need to see her. But at the end of the day, I think I wish I had known along the way that if I had just learned to love those parts instead of hate them, it would have been a lot easier of a healing journey.
Oh, that's beautiful. I really like that. Sabrina, I'm really grateful that you were here on this show. One last piece of advice from you as the absolute expert for everyone out there who is in this dating world and feels a little bit lost. What would you say to start with?
You're not alone, first off. You're not alone. There is a lot of people that are struggling in the same ways, and everyone is really fighting their own battle. And I think if we could remove ourselves for just a second and remember that most people are projecting onto us, it actually has nothing to do with us. But really, if anybody is struggling right now, if I can implement and implore one thing, please learn to take a pause, because it's going to change the way you date. It's going to change the way you show up. I'm talking even a breath. That right there could change the way that you make a choice. And so please do that, because that will change how you have relationships, who you have relationships with, and how you show up in your relationships.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really wonderful. I leave it at that. Thank you so much, Sabrina, for being here. It's been wonderful being with you today and wonderful being in LA. I'm gonna see you in my next episode, wherever that's gonna be, and take good care of yourself.